to Rick's Motors.
Episode 22, where the only thing we talk about is the automotive cars.
So anyway, I saw this Diesel brother on the highway, brother, and he smoked me out, brother.
I honestly think you'll destroy your voice if you do that any longer during this cast.
What are you talking about, brother?
I'm very impressed at your ability to do that. We're going to have to make a character out of that. Holy shit.
My Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do Hulk Hogan, and I can do Joe from Family Guy. Those are my two. I can...
Honestly, better than me. I can do varying levels of vague accents to get more construed as time goes on, and I attempt to fucking narrow in on exactly what they are.
I mean, you've been doing, like, the same really bad British accent for a really long time.
Yeah, for a very long time. For a very long time. That was, like, more Australian.
No, that's, like, Asian. A long time.
A very long time. I just, oh, God.
No.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be a long time.
Would you like some crumpets?
Would you like some crumpets?
If you think about, like, Wallace and Gromit,
Yeah.
that's how I kind of narrow in, you know. Like,
yeah, that theme song for that show constantly gets stuck in my head for years. Ever since I worked at the golf course in 2015, I'm still thinking, yeah. No, it's endless, dude. I don't know what it is. Maybe I haven't been viewing it as like I should. Maybe I need to look at it as a sign, and I'm supposed to look up like the composer of that and read about their life, and then figure out some sort of connection. It's got to be a sign. There's no reason that should keep coming in my head.
When's the last time you had cheese?
Oh man,
it's a very reoccurring theme on Wallace and Gromit. Maybe your body's like, hey, get some provolone in you.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even like provolone that much.
I don't know what. See, it's like one of my favorites for like a sandwich.
It's good on pizza. Like that's one of the mixes of cheeses that they use. On consumer pizza.
Do you know what? oh, are we talking consumer grade pizza now?
Mm-hmm.
So I think in Iceland. I mean, we can. Let's just for a second.
Yeah,
humor me.
Yeah, I'm humoring you.
I told you about the pizza, right? In Iceland, did I tell you about that? Was this on the podcast?
I think you talked about something about pizza in Iceland.
Yeah. We are live right now, so we have chat running, and it doesn't look like anybody's answering. So
yeah, and that's not because we have 0 viewers and we're not doing this live. No.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with either of those things. But so basically, we had pizza in Iceland. Okay, and it was the best pizza I've had in a really long time.
Yeah. And
they put like really unconventional things on it, at least for our from our perspective. So, they called it pepperoni, but actually it was summer sausage. And then they put blue cheese, cream cheese, provolone, or not provolone, mozzarella, and then like a little nice pizza sauce.
Yeah.
It's the best pizza I've ever had.
You did mention this, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I did, so I just... But, you know.
It's interesting. I've been reading a lot more about nutrition lately, and I'm realizing that good food, as long as they're not, like, trying to deceive you, the people that are cooking it, by using things that the body thinks are energy, but actually aren't, and are probably more poison for you, like vegetable oil and sugar. And if your body is in a state where it hasn't ingested those things in a long time, good food that tastes good is also like nutritionally valuable.
Oh yeah.
Like the more bioavailable the nutrients are in your food, the better it's going to taste. And the more I realize about cooking and trying to like min-max my strategies of cooking with like acid to make sure to break down the food to get more bioavailability of nutrients, I'm starting to learn how different nutrients require other things in order for them to function and in the body and for them to become usable by the body in the first place. You can't even use certain vitamins if they're isolated without the context of other things around them. So it is kind of like your body's a chemical power plant that continually, like we always think about the things we put in, but never the effect immediately after. Like what is our body doing to those things? So, as I've considered these things in my mind of using like oils, fats, acids, and all of that stuff, the food I've been making recently has tasted better. Yeah, and it's pretty funny.
Isn't there like a whole book that's called like Salt, Fat, Acid or something like that?
Yeah, I read I read sugar, salt, fat.
Okay, I think that might be.
I get it confused because there's salt, sugar, fat, which is the book I read that we were talking about on the podcast,
Oh, wow.
and then I also read Salt, Flour, Yeast, which is a book about bread making, and so that gets confused. And then I have seen other things that are just 3 words in succession,
3 food things
that involve salt in some way.
It's always salt. But a perfect example of exactly what you're talking about is like if you ever have like just like a roast, like you just have like it's a fatty chunk of beef that you like bite into and the fat just like melts and your tongue goes like, oh, we needed this. Because it's like calorie rich and it's like fat that's already like, you know, disintegrating.
Yeah.
And so like you eat it and you're like, I feel great for eating this. And then you're really full. But you know.
I one of the books I was reading also brought up, which is funny because I thought I would have recognized it, but I guess I'm not privy to it. I'm not conscious of it until I'm actually reading it or I'm thinking about it. But in the past, I've read books about, or I've read beginnings of books, I don't know if I've ever finished them, about linguistics and how metaphors shape language. And one of the examples in those beginnings of those books that I've read was we frame arguments like battles. It's all about winning or losing an argument. It's all about, like, the words we use reflect how we view arguments as, like, you gain ground or you lose ground.
Yeah.
You're defeated in an argument, sort of things. They take their positions. It is almost all war related.
Yeah.
Verbatim verbs and stuff like that. And I also think the way that, for example, this is what I wasn't privy to, is that we call fat, but there's obviously healthy fats that won't make you fat.
Yeah.
And although fat is dense and has a lot of calories, it's not going to immediately be one-to-one as transferring into fat in the body, essentially. So we almost characterize fat as fat. Honestly, it just needs a different name. I mean, I know there's like lipids, and fats are things that are solid at room temperature, and oils are lipids that are, or fats. Oils are fats or lipids that aren't solid at room temperature. So it depends on the context of how you're using the word.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
But it also depends on the temperature of your room.
That's true. Honestly, yeah. And I don't know if you knew this, but an eggplant's actually a berry. It's only a vegetable in the cooking context.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, otherwise, it's classified as a berry.
It's not. I mean, like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, wait. Okay, what is an avocado? Avocado is like whatever the same family as a peach. Is that true? Is that
I think
something?
it is. I mean,
because it's got a pit.
Because there's like the scientific understanding, then there's the cooking understanding, and then there's the. There's so
like
many
the
different
plant.
The plant classification plant taxonomy understanding. I don't know, whatever.
I mean, it's kind of interesting how avocado was vegetable, and probably the only reason why is because of how it tastes. It doesn't taste sweet like a berry or like an apple or a fruit. So they're probably like, well, it's like more creamy and I don't know, like potato-y almost. So throw it in the vegetable category.
Yeah, and we put strawberries as berries, but they're also not classified as berries because their seeds are on the outside of them. So we call it a strawberry, but it's not a fucking berry. In fact, I don't remember the exact name of it off the top of my head, but I don't think it's classified as a fruit either. Or if it is, it's something different.
It's gotta be. Well, wait a sec. All right, wait a second. Now I'm not all right. But aren't berries like they have, or fruits have seeds available, whereas like vegetables,
it's not as easy as that.
Okay, I thought that was like
when I looked it up and Jade and I were reading about it, it's not that easy. It depends on, sometimes the seeds aren't seeds, they're things that encase the seeds, and so that changes it. It depends on, I don't remember all of it off the top of my head. It was a really long article and it was very confusing. But it was only, it shared multiple perspectives of, like, this is how cooks and chefs view this particular vegetable when cooking, like, or fruit. They'll call it a vegetable or fruit depending on what it goes with. And then there's also the taxonomical classification of it, and then there's the scientists that are like, well, this is a fruit. I mean, technically, bananas don't have seeds anymore because we genetically engineered them to not have seeds. So, are they really a fruit if they don't have seeds?
I mean, you could see where the seeds used to be.
Sometimes.
Where, like, you know, the center, you're like, oh, there was like a seed pod deal here. But I mean, how do you make more banana trees?
Well,
do they just graft?
So they clone them. It's all cloning, which means that if there is some sort of disease that wipes out one banana tree, it'll effectively kill all those bananas. In fact, the bananas that our ancestors used to eat were died by that very same reason. So the bananas we eat are a lesser version of those supposedly better bananas back then. Yeah, I forget what they were called.
Isn't like banana flavoring? This could just be something.
Yeah, banana flavoring is based off of the original old banana.
I'm glad they're dead. Yeah, I hate banana flavoring.
It's interesting. There's also other variants of bananas in the wild in like Asian countries and stuff like that. I've watched videos of people eating weird fruit in different cultures, and they still have the seeds within them, so they haven't been bred out of them. But it kind of gets in the way of eating a banana. I mean, there's just a lot of seeds in these. I mean, it's the nature of the plant trying to reproduce, so that makes sense. Yeah. But
well, they want, like, you know, an animal to come by and eat the whole damn thing and just, you know, go 50 meters, take a fat dump, and be like, that's my children right there.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I love about, I'm pretty sure there's another book I started and never finished. Nabokov's Lectures on Literature. In the beginning of the book, Nabokov was the writer of many books, but he was mainly somebody, well, I don't know, he's probably most famous for Lolita, that book about Humble Humbert having sex with a young girl.
I mean...
and it's a very interesting story. But aside from that, his lectures on literature, he taught creative writing and English and stuff for many years, which makes sense if you're going to write novels and be famous for writing novels. That's probably the best position for you. Yeah. You know how they always say teachers, if you can't teach. Yeah. But this guy did, and he fucking taught. So there you go. That's even more credible. Yeah. But in that book, he mentions that nature is incredibly deceptive. And he also, Nabokov specifically had a very intense interest in the genitalia of butterflies. So I think this is probably where that comes from. I have no idea why he was super invested in this, but frankly, I don't even know where I would find a genitalia on butterflies.
Yeah, so, did he like pin one down like in a magnifying glass? Where is it? Where is it?
I have no idea. I keep getting very distracted, but the point I was trying to make, it's just because everything sort of converges in my mind.
Yeah.
But he was talking about how nature is deceptive, and when you start viewing nature through that lens, it becomes really interesting because, like you said, the whole goal of fruit and like other things, vegetables and whatever, they have seeds in them, and they use sugar to entice the animal, to trick them into thinking that they're getting energy. Yeah. And the food does have nutrients and stuff because plants are like essentially chemical factories that convert whatever's in the soil into nutrient and form those specific forms of fruit and matter and whatever. But they're tricking you into spreading the seeds in the same way that certain animals can become camouflage over time, or the same way that bees are tricked to go to flowers and things like that because of the nature of their color and what chemicals they have inside of them. In the same way that plants defend themselves, which is why we have like psychoactive substances or poisons and stuff that affect insects in different ways than they affect us. Mm-hmm. And then making procreation feel good. Like that's a deceptive way to trick you into continuing your genetic line. And it is, and then like, you know, it's everything. You start to look at all of the perspective of nature and just become amazed by how deceptive it has been the whole time, and how you've never seen it. It's wild to me. I find it is wild. It's nature.
Whoa! Yeah. Look at Tarzan. Holy shit, he's naked. That's fucking weird. Speaking of naked dudes out in the woods, I sent you a video by Channel 5.
Oh man, dude.
Of a man.
That video was so weird. I couldn't even watch all of it. I had to skim it. I will go back and watch it.
I didn't watch all of it either. So
I was just shuffling through it, and this guy was saying stuff that I've said on this podcast, and I'm like, is this really the end result of this ideology? Like, do I have to become this naked? I don't, how do we even describe it to them? Okay, so it's this pear-shaped head guy.
Ted.
His head is pear-shaped.
Oh, I thought you said Ted.
Oh,
Ted
sorry.
guy. He does look like a Ted. I would say he looked like a Ted.
Yeah, it's weird how names sort
match,
of belie some sort of aesthetic characteristics about something or perception. But I forget what his name is. Do you remember what his name is?
No,
is it Will or something?
It's in the name of the video.
Okay,
yeah,
which is funny. You'd think that would make it easier.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's this pear-shaped head guy that has taken the Tantra and Eastern thought maybe too far.
Yeah,
and. Actually, no, I shouldn't say too far. He's really well studied.
Yeah, he knows it all. Yeah,
he's through actually studying and looking at all of this stuff. He's taken it to a conclusion that he's figured out. Mm-hmm. Whatever that conclusion may be, whether it be in line with his immortal soul or not. My initial instinct after looking at it is, wow, this is weird. But do I just think it's weird in the face of somebody that's so committed to showcasing,
he is,
to connecting the dots, really?
He's dedicated in his craft. I mean, so, like, some of the things that he does is, like, he has a bunch of dudes with him out in the woods, and he's, like, trying to, like, help people grow their masculinity is kind of the general idea. And he's like, like one of the first points in the in that episode was like, he kind of goes like, do you know, like penis sizes are shrinking, it's because the males don't have as much testosterone as they used to, and he sees this as a problem. So he's like, you can grow your cock size by just making an okay symbol and just stroking your dick over and over again to make it longer. And so he claims,
which is it's just true. I mean, there's the ancient, I'm pretty sure it's Arabic, art of jelqing, which is essentially what that is. It's by stretching in different various forms, and then you rebuild the muscle over time. Yeah, obviously it's more there's more to it than just making an okay sign and doing that. But no, obviously it's just what he said, because it's in a short interview. I mean, they were with him for a while, but
the video is like 20 minutes long.
He's not wrong. I mean, I don't feel like he's wrong about all this stuff. I mean, even talks about the testicle breathing, and
gonadal energy,
being present. He talks about like being with the parasympathetic nervous system, nervous system, to be in the moment and not be constrained to just your penis and things like that. So
I mean, like, what he says is fine, but it's just like it's presented to you in such a weird way that you're like, oh god,
it's so bizarre. and even I agree with the sentiment, which is the same sentiment I agree with when I've read all these books about masturbation and. Like, I read the Coiled Serpent and a bunch of 4chan posts and a bunch of other stuff about basically how... and then the Montauk Chia's books about mastering the male sex energy, whatever. I can never remember the name of that book. Cultivating the male sex energy. But he talks a lot about that concept of, obviously... There's all the nutrients and force and energy within you to give life. So you completely dispelling that for no reason will obviously be depleting your life force, because that is force that you use to create. I mean, it feels simplistic and understandable.
Yeah. Now we've made him sound like completely like normal, and then he goes and like he's like, so I want you to go ahead and grab my balls. Like at some point in the video, he has like his guys that he's there with, like on this retreat, and they're in front of a waterfall naked, and he's like, just grab my balls, feel my gonadal energy. And like he grabs the other guys, like, I can feel the sperm being made. And it's like,
it's weird.
Once you get to that, you're like, everything that you were saying, if you just said it in a TED Talk
Yeah.
and you were clothed, it would probably, people would be like, oh, you know what? Maybe he's got some points there. But as soon as you start grabbing like some guy's balls and you're like, oh yeah, I feel the semen being made. Like then it gets a little weird. And that's where people kind of lose.
And honestly, it feels he's gone so far outside of, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Or it's not that he doesn't care, because he obviously cares about trying to reinvigorate the testosterone in young men, and this is the solution he's found for it. But he's so far from culture and society that that divorce, that divide between those things makes it feel so awkward to watch him do this stuff in the wild. I'm sure maybe these preconceived notions are just things that we've been ingrained with through the social norms, and that's exactly what he's talking about.
Yes,
that
what he's doing probably wasn't weird because he even talked about like back in like ancient Greece, or I probably have the country wrong, but back whatever, they used to jack each other off, and they were like, if there's a strong dude, you drink his semen, you get strong too. Which, I mean, probably not, but
it's possible. Yeah,
yeah, but that was like a belief back then, so that was like a normal thing. So what he's doing, they would be like, oh yeah, of course, you want to stretch out your dick, and you want to have your brother cup your balls.
It seems so weird to me.
It's foreign to us.
Yeah, it's it is foreign, and it's so far from the things that we've been ingrained with that it feels awkward. But he's probably right about a lot more than anybody gives him credit for. I mean, there's the absurdity of like yelling in the woods naked and hugging each other and whatever, but then there's also that overcoming these things that are, oh god, dare I say it, social constructs.
Oh no.
But that video was wild.
Yeah.
And primitive and primal in its own way.
It was. It's a I like that. It's Channel 5. Andrew Callahan.
Yeah, I watched it. I didn't
like
watch
videos.
that full video, but I did watch the full interview with Alex Jones.
Yep.
Because I wanted to see that. I was like, man, Alex Jones is not. I mean, he's hilarious, but he doesn't appear on YouTube too much.
Yeah, he's banned.
Yeah, because he's banned. So the fact that he even agreed to do an interview with this really strange interviewer and like YouTube premise.
Yeah. But I mean, like I don't know. I really like. I feel as though, just as a side note, that Andrew his videos are really nice, because even though they show a narrative, and because his interview style is to basically just go like, so what do you think about this? Mm-hmm. And then let the person talk and be awkward so they keep talking. Mm-hmm. So you get down to like whatever kind of core idea they're getting at, or maybe this is just what that person was thinking at that time, whatever. It makes it really interesting and kind of almost unbiased, so it's like, oh, you can kind of see like where these people are coming from, and then you can kind of make your own whatever.
Yeah.
choices, so
it is very interesting. I appreciate, my favorite question in the Alex Jones interview from Andrew was, if you had a time machine, what would you change about the situation that you're in right now? And that led Alex to, saying some pretty interesting, and you got to ruminate on it and consider whether or not he would change anything about the way his life is going. I also thought it was funny that he was planning on, at least that's what he says in the video, he's planning on canceling InfoWars or just stopping it or handing it off to other people, but the court case reinvigorated his need to continue and persist, and I thought that was kind of funny. It is almost like life hands you the things in ways to show that you have to keep doing what you're doing. Or follow your path in some way. Mm-hmm. Obviously, life also reinforces the bad habits too.
Oh, but... yeah. Well, so I cheated on you. Mm-hmm. I went to the cabin.
Oh my god! I knew you would.
I walked around. I know.
Honestly, you should do that before you go to you should do your trip up there. Your mushroom trip.
Yeah.
Up at the cabin.
I should. But the problem is that I don't know. I don't want to be around family. I don't want them to be like, oh, you over the, I don't know. there's people up there like every weekend.
It's
so,
true.
you
They
know.
narrow your consciousness. I understand. You're trying to
Yeah.
get naked and have
I-
other things grab your gonadal energy.
I was gonna make my own waterfall to swim in,
Yeah.
and then kind of just trip out and grab my balls.
Yeah,
and-
but the social construct that they impose on you
yeah,
is too much.
I just don't. I like them. I love my family.
Yeah.
This is something that like. Real quick aside.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Something that I realized. So obviously cabin causes reflection for me. Anyway.
Mhm.
So I reflected on a few things, but the first thing was like, I got my wedding photos back as I was going up there. As I was looking at them, the ones that I had like some of the, like you start from the beginning, right? So I walk down the aisle, then. Everybody else walks down the aisle. We have my parents walk down the aisle. The first photo that gave me like a big emotional reaction was like me hugging my dad. And I kind of realized like it was me making them proud was like a really big moment for me. And so I was like, have I been seeking parental approval my whole life? And I think I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like I even really recognized it until now, which but it's something that I really looked at and I was like, finally, I finally made it. So that was like the first reflection, I guess. So obviously after that, then like Rebecca walked down the aisle, and like her coming all the way up to me and me remembering that moment was like a big thing too, where I was like, oh man, that was a moment in my life. I think I don't know if I told you, but like, and Rebecca will hear this eventually, but like I was about to cry, and then this sounds mean, and I don't mean it to be mean. It's just in like the most, I don't know, literal way. Looking at Rebecca's dad bringing her down the aisle made me stop crying, because I was like, okay, got it. There's still a guy here, and he's handing me my wife. And so I need to like, I don't know, I gotta like
keep composure.
Yeah. So like by his presence, I was able to
he stifled your crying.
Yeah. So
maybe another way to phrase it is the responsibility and duty that you have to like serve, protect. And Rebecca is what there is. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of, I can't think through those words specifically, but
I think you understand what I'm saying.
I get the sentiment, right?
Yeah.
It is, it's like when you go to sell an object. No.
Yeah, so he was bringing me my property.
Yeah, after signing the contractual agreements, I didn't want to cry on the page and, smudge the ink because my name was on there.
Exactly. This is my first property that I owned.
It's so funny.
No, it's so
maybe it's a way for me to just diffuse having to actually talk about something of substance just to make a joke about it.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, oh yeah, the responsibility of like, protecting and serving your wife through sickness and health. And then I'm like, it's easier to make a joke here.
It is.
Let's just not talk about that, responsibility. I just want to go back to childhood. Let's send us
Unga bunga.
Unga bunga.
I am a caveman now.
Yeah, let's talk about penises again. That's more my
speed. Wait a second.
You're talking about all this introspection. It's getting pretty overwhelming.
So then I whipped out my dick. You
won't believe the childish thing I did the other day to confirm my sensory experience in this materialistic world I live in. Yeah, that's right. So much self-gratification where I come from.
I wank daily, brother.
Yeah. I don't really want to confront my feelings or anything that lies beneath them, so I just continually self-gratify myself to not listen to the voice in my head.
If I jack off every morning for 2 hours, that's 2 hours I don't have to think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And the best part is I only feel worse every time, but still keep doing it. Yeah, but anyways, no. You can continue.
So self-reflection, cabin. The next thing is that this is such a stupid realization, but it's a realization like such a more intense way than like just saying it. I kind of was like, everybody's like very similar. Like if I look at everybody's like stories and everybody's wants and desires and needs, and the person I went up there with, was like, talking to me about life stuff, and I was like, damn, I understand where he's coming from with all this life stuff, because I want that, and I hear that from other people, and so it feels as though we're all closely connected, but not.
Mhm.
Like, everybody kind of wants the same thing, but are all on their own paths doing the same thing, I guess. But it's just an interesting, weird side note that like seems like the most obvious thing in the world, but like whenever I was thinking about it, I'm like, I never really thought about it as deep as I thought about it then.
The way I frame it is, we're all. I'm smiling, but it's not because I find this particularly funny. I'm not sure why. Maybe just because it sounds strange to say it out loud in this fashion. But we're all fragments of God's consciousness seeking wholeness. That's how I view it.
I understand, yeah. So you understand, but
yeah, I get your sentiment. Everybody feels so similar, but so disparate and disconnected.
It's like these people want very similar things. They don't know each other, and yet they're like practically on the same path in a way. And then like I look at myself and I'm like, I'm on that same path too. It's just such a human experience.
I think there's camaraderie in knowing you're not alone.
Oh yeah.
Even if you are physically alone in those moments.
Yeah. I mean, a thought that I used to have is that everyone is 100% unique. And I never really thought about it beyond like a certain time, I guess. Like everybody really just wants to be like happy and to be able to live like a normal life where you can like wake up in the morning, eat some food, and like just look out onto the world in front of you and go like, yeah, that's good, and just live life, I guess. That's every time that I hear someone, I can boil it down to, they just kind of want to be able to go like, you know what, yeah, I got it. If that makes any sense.
I agree with you. I think that is in some way the purpose of life. I'm sure there's other words we can ascribe to describe what that situation would look like for most humans. But I have to agree with the Unabomber on this one. The reason we've been robbed of that life by the Industrial Revolution.
I would agree. And also, I feel like there's still ways that you can live that way.
Yeah, of course. But I see... I know that there's ways that you can still achieve that life because the YouTube algorithm continues to give me cabin videos of single people taking several grand in chump change and manufacturing lifestyles of wilderness living.
Hanging out, yeah.
Built a cabin with $3,000 and a pickup truck, like... Spent a year alone and finished and cultivated and animal husbanded this land. Yeah.
Jesus, yeah. So. It's like, we used to live like that. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a way to go back.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is you've probably known this from the way that I talk, but I talk really weird. I recognize this because I had to talk to people over the phone often that I don't really know, that I'm kind of disconnected from. When I try to explain something, I have like a certain way of trying to infer a meaning and then hoping that other people get what I'm meaning. I don't describe stuff very well, but I feel as though the word and the inflections that I use, I force the other person to think of what I'm thinking of, so that way they can kind of get it and go like, oh, let me connect these things, and then they go and kind of confirm it, and I go, yes, that is what I'm trying to say.
You know, that's really funny, because I did just think that when you were talking about that concept of...
I literally couldn't describe it.
Like, you were talking about, like, everyone seeking happiness, and you were, like... It was, for me, more using different words in my head to translate what you were saying.
Yes.
And I consciously thought that thought. I was like, I get what he's trying to say, but that's not what he's... Or, like, it is what you're saying.
It's what yeah.
You're saying it right. It's not wrong. It's just that...
there's more to it than what I'm saying.
I'm implying words on top of what you're saying, but we're still communicating.
I feel as though I am like a dog that can speak English, where, you know, you kind of infer what a dog is trying to tell you, or like a cat. Like, so, like, for instance, my cat will... like, he'll, like, paw at something and then paw at where he wants that to go. So he'll, like, I'll have a ball. He'll, like, kind of, like, bat at the air towards the ball and then, like, kind of, like do, like, a little flinch. Like, he wants me to throw it.
He's,
and
like, conditioning you to...
He's trying to communicate that he wants the ball thrown.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? So I feel as though I'm talking in English, but then also trying to just infer things through the words that I'm saying and in the way I'm saying it.
You know, I don't think that aspect of yourself is what, like, a negative or anything. I think so. Your ability to convey with emotion and inflection is just as important as the words you use.
Yeah.
I suppose if you feel any sense of lesser than or inferior or something, there is always the option of learning other words or
I think my problem is not, I don't think it's necessarily, I like who I am, and I've done this, like, I feel like my whole life. I've never felt like I've been, like, a very descriptive person. Just, I don't know, I know how to describe things, and if you give me a pad of paper or whatever, I can probably describe things more in detail than what I could tell you, if that makes any sense. So it's like if I had time to, like, sit there and really, like, process everything that I'm trying to say, I could write it down. But, like, I can quickly, I think this is what it really is I can quickly decide on emotions and ways to say things to say more than what I'm saying, rather than trying to think of the perfect word to describe what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I can understand that. I think it's a good skill to have. The ability, I mean, it all falls under communication. Yeah. It's just not communication with, like, left brain language. It's probably communication with right brain, like, symbology and intuition and feeling or something. Yeah.
Where it really falls apart, though, is, like, talking to someone in another language. Like, if, especially anyone, like, and I don't mean anything against these people, but like any kind of, like, Asian, a lot of, like, Chinese, Japanese, even, like, the few Korean people I've met and talked to, they seem to have, like, especially if I use, like, a hint of sarcasm, anything like that, they take things very literally. So, like, the words that I say makes me sound stupid is what I think it does, because what I'm saying is, like, if they take it surface level literal, it they go like, oh, I mean, this, of course that does that, and, like, what I really mean is we could do this, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Maybe another way to phrase this is that you've mastered culturally the communication of inflection
of the Northeast,
and of the Northeast, of this, like, inflection and reading people, but it's culturally specific, and it's only works for your language and the people around. Like, you're better at communicating in your group, essentially. Yes. And when you get people that have grown up with completely different culture and multiple languages, they can't perceive the nuance of your ability to communicate in your specific culture to them. So, it's interesting to think about. I suppose it's interesting to divide communication into those things, but I do agree that is obviously an aspect of talking. Because you lose so much over text message compared to voice.
I'm terrible at text.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a baby boomer just because, I don't like that idea of constantly classifying everything as whatever, younger is worse, because I do think there's advantages to everything. There's nuance.
You've seen my Discord messages. They're pretty bad. I think I talked...
Yeah. You're notoriously like very bad at spelling and writing.
Yep.
But it's completely different in person.
Yeah.
It really does hide your power level. It's the best way to explain it. If it wasn't, I mean, if this whole podcast was typed, you'd think he's a barbarian. It honestly is like, half the time I'm trying to figure out what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah.
Just to figure out what word he's misspelled, which one he's used wrong, what autocorrect is fucked with. I'm like, what? It honestly makes me feel like I gotta become like an investigator in order to piece together the context.
I remember there was a moment in my life where I'm like, I gotta try better, because like on an old like flip phone that had like a keyboard, it didn't have autocorrect, obviously. I remember typing out like it was maybe a 30-word paragraph and sending it, reading it back, going like, this is actually ill. I can't even retranslate what I just said. And like I remember looking at that and going like, all right, we're just gonna take our time, retype this, and like fix it.
It's really funny how that doesn't. You would think that would affect life more, the like inability, or not inability, but like less skill of writing or something, but you're successful in so many different ways that it's so funny to me. It's like, and it's like stuff that could use writing too. Like you have your own business. You have, I guess, an employee at this point.
Yeah.
You're like you're a LLC or something. Like
S Corp. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're an S Corp. You have all this. You have a tax guy. You like manage everything. It's funny how your ability with written language does not affect your ability to succeed in life in any way. It's all about perception, which is funny because I was reading about consciousness, and they were talking about how people that are poor usually remain poor because they develop a scarcity consciousness, and whereas people that are rich remain rich because they develop like a prosperity consciousness.
Yeah.
And in your mind, it's never, I mean, there are words that you've used that could communicate that you view this aspect of yourself a little bit less than others, but it doesn't stop you from doing anything.
Yeah.
It's become like you've found a way to persevere and to communicate despite it, really. And it doesn't matter. If you really, and it's funny because it's something, if you were worried about, you could fix or change, and that's always in your hands to do. Read one of those like Sound Smarter 4,000 word books, and then just read that every day. And honestly, you'd be a force to be reckoned with. Maybe you shouldn't do that. I changed my mind. Just stay where you're at. Yeah. Sound like a fucking ooga booga retard. No.
There's well, so I think it comes down to, because I hear you use words and I completely understand them, and I can go like, oh, I understand how that word works, and like I could use that. But the thing is that like, I don't know, my brain just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I think what it comes down to is I have undiagnosed, dysgraphia. In my handwriting, whenever I write a letter, it is unique every single time. I do not have I don't have an easy way of writing anything. So my handwriting looks like absolute garbage because I'll write a letter A, and if that letter A looked the same throughout like a paragraph, it would be fine because you'd get used to it. But because every A is unique, it makes it really hard to figure out what's going on. So I think that affects things more than just writing, right? I think that like even down to when I'm driving, like when I lived at my parents' house and I would drive the lawnmower, down to that level where like I'm like, all I have to do is like whenever I turn, I do the right, I just move the stupid handles because it's a zero turn the right way, and I could do it like perfectly fine, like 7 out of 10 out of 8 times, and then like on the 8th one I just like mess it up all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Honestly,
you know,
I wonder if genetically you have a predisposition to using a different side of your brain more than the other one.
Yeah, very.
Because honestly, the more you talk about this stuff, it's not that you're illogical or anything, but from the stuff I've read, it seems that language is specifically in the left-hand side of your brain. Like rational language, socialization, those things you learn for culture and communication are predominantly in the left hemisphere of the brain.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the way you describe how you take actions and the way that you communicate to me, even if it's not as verbose or uses that many different words, you still communicated accurately. And I think it's because you're not listening to like logic and rationale. You're listening to like intuition in a different way. You know how these things are supposed to be, and you act on them because of intuition.
Yeah.
And it's not
a robotical.
Yeah, it's not It's not. Yeah, mechanical. That's a really good way to put it. It's not this robotic like automaton of like logic of this is how the world works. This is what I must do.
Yeah,
like, it's more like I feel like this is what it is, so I'm gonna do it that way. Yeah.
I think you're probably onto something because I can keep breaking down like everyday things that I do, like typing on a keyboard. My typing, like, you know how you're supposed to, you know, I know you don't really use that, right?
I don't. I go
the home keys.
Whatever. I'm random.
I also freestyle, but I don't freestyle in the same way.
Freestyle. Yeah, I just freestyle on my keyboard. I'm a programmer by nature, and I freestyle.
Yeah, bro, I freestyle the keys, bro. It's just like hit the S key a couple times, man. Yeah. But I mean, like, I feel like. Down to the mechanical level of things, I can mentally see what I need to do, but there are certain times where my body just goes like, nah, and just like screws it up.
And then, you know, that makes sense to me because when you talk about the letters being distinct in their own way, it's not that you've, the best way I can put it is you intuitively know what the letter is supposed to look like, but you're not logically repeating the same letter every time. You're drawing it by intuition of how you think it should be every single time.
Yes.
Which I do think is some sort of like right brain predominance or something. Yeah, it's so strange, but also so interesting. I'm not sure.
It's a weird thing, and I don't know why I would ever like go and get a diagnosis, I guess, because I've lived with it for so long. It's just who I am. You know, a lot of my family, like my sister, my cousin, a couple of my cousins, all have dyslexia, which is like actually that one affects your reading. So that one affects learning a lot, where like you'll have to read something several times because every once in a while the letters will be flopped around, or you just won't see things the same way, and you'll be like, it realistically comes down to identifying, like certain things the same way. Like whenever you look at a word, you can almost identify it from like pretty much the first and last letters, right? And go like, that's that word, that's that, you know what I mean, without fully reading it. I think whatever dyslexia is, you would look at a word and it takes you a second for your mind to go like, let me translate. That's that word. You know what I mean? It takes a second.
It is. I get that. I think a different aspect of explaining this to me, or something that popped in my head, was it's sort of the way we view symbols and pictures. They talk a lot about how the East has a different perception because they don't use letters. They use like pictures, like each character of like kanji and all those other whatever.
Holds meaning.
Yeah, they have meaning, as well as, since they're like homophones and they're repeated in different ways, there's interesting connections amongst them. And when you view a picture and other pictures next to it, it doesn't really immediately come with words in your head. It's more of like, you can look at a picture and get a sense of symbolic representation of it without using any words at all. Which is why communication through pictures has lasted as long as it did. It's why the golden age happened, is because there are pictures that evoke interesting meanings to you in ways that you can't logically understand. And it's interesting when you consider symbols too, because symbols aren't simply just equations where this means this, like sun means heat or something. Like, you got to think about them like concepts. And when you start to think about them as concepts, then the world becomes like much more interesting, because it's like, what does the sun represent conceptually? Like, you have words that you can ascribe to it, like heat, life, sustenance, like plants maintaining their life cycle. Like, you start to view all, as well as like light penetrates darkness. Darkness is each has its own thing with it. And there's a whole bunch of concepts that branch off from that, which I guess is funny to use the term branch off when life is sustained by the sun. But regardless, it does. It isn't just mechanistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not like robots.
Yeah,
that's the best way I can explain it. A lot of stuttering for me today. My brain is.
You're thinking. You're maxing out your RAM right now.
I actually think I'm doing the opposite of what you're doing. I am predominantly stuck in left brain and trying to go into right brain.
Uh-huh.
You are predominantly in right brain and getting stuck when you go into left brain.
Yeah, my left.
That is what we're dealing with.
I have like if you want to use like computer terms, right? I have like a good graphics card maybe and like a really bad processor, and so it like narrows. It goes through like a small hole where it's like here's little bits that I can chunk out.
I'm constantly fighting intuition and using logic, and you're constantly using logic you're constantly using intuition and fighting logic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do. Maybe, honestly, I didn't realize why the dynamic with talking with you was so good for our podcast. Yeah. But when I divide it like that, I'm beginning to understand.
I think I tried to explain this before where I was like, I'm like right brain. Like we were both parts of a brain was what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Honestly, I think you're right. And that intuitively, that makes sense. Yeah. It wasn't until my logic caught up that I was able to interpret it. And it's funny because the more books I read, I get thousands of new connections in different ways. And even if I just start a book and never finish it, it's still...
you get something.
It insists on my mind. It like etches something of like, not only the you fucked up, you need to go back and finish that book, but also like just the concepts and what the person was trying to communicate. Even if I only read a couple pages, I get a sense of the author's emotions and what they're trying to impart on me. Intuitively, that's what I feel. And even if the author's long dead, I can feel that source of something that isn't physically there. Yeah. It feels there's something they're trying to communicate to me, and I can ascribe value to it based on just reading a little bit of their sentiment. Like I'm connecting with the stream of consciousness of where they were at this point in time when they wrote this particular book. Yeah. And as absurd and spiritual as that can potentially sound, there's that aspect of like finally catching up to some of the stuff that you've been saying or trying to impart over time. Like you've been saying the same thing in different ways or trying to impart it, but maybe I haven't been as receptive because I'm trying to like
I feel
logic
like
it.
You mostly get you get it.
I feel
that's why it's easy for me to talk to you because you get like what I'm trying to pick. You know,
that's
what I mean?
True. I'm not being pedantic about the words that you mess up or don't use. Yeah, like maybe I am at some points, but I'm for like jokes
I deserve
it
sometimes. I feel so you know.
Ooga booga.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose there's an opportunity for listening, and I find value in the way that you impart it to me.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Wow, this is such a weird cast.
Isn't it?
It went from... and we haven't even talked about cars, which is what we were fucking starting with.
This was supposed to be the Hey Brother freaking podcast, and now we're sitting here having philosophical talks.
We went from, like, cars to, like... introspection, or no, we went from cars to like random penis testicle breathing gonadic energy, but like nonsense.
We're on a slant.
Honestly, we went downhill and then now we're going uphill. Let's go downhill again. Okay?
Who knows?
Yeah. Let's actually talk about cars. So it's been 2 weeks since I've been to the gym with you because I've lost my autonomy, which is funny. This is the logic part of me coming out here. Autonomy? Automotive? Does that mean that cars are always relating to your autonomy? That seems really strange. There's a connection there, metaphorically.
Henry Ford knows what he's doing.
Yeah, that's really weird.
The automobile.
He's freeing people by giving them the ability to pay for a car. No. So my car... I went on a date. We went on a day.
Where'd you go?
We went to a festival.
Ooh.
And on our way back, which is like an hour and a half drive, my car started vibrating intensely. We weren't really sure what it was, so we did the most sensible option, which is pull over, decide to see with my limited knowledge of cars, whether or not anything was particularly wrong, I pumped up the tires just because that's what I knew how to do. I tightened the lug nuts because in the past I've had a wheel literally fly off because the lug nuts weren't tightened. And I thought, maybe that would fix it. Nope, the car keeps vibrating. So that's the limit of my car knowledge. my sensory perceptions about how I've dealt with cars in the past, that's all I have to draw on. Yeah. I suppose maybe I should... Oh, and the philosophical journey of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, a book I've read that talks literally nothing about motorcycle maintenance. And I'm not driving a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So I take my life and my girlfriend's life in my hands when I say, we're going to drive this back.
I gotta take this baby home.
Yeah. So we drive it back to the office, and then I was like, you know what? There's something telling me. Maybe it's intuition. This is where the stream of consciousness comes in, and it's like, Cody, you must not drive this anymore. And it's not just the loud vibration every time I turn. This is a spirit. Something's communicating to me and telling me, don't drive this anymore. Yeah. So I was like, I call my father, who is very savvy with cars.
Yes.
And I'm like, yo, I'm just going to leave the car here. I'm going to bum rides off my girlfriend to get to the office. Let me know if you can come out and check my car. And so he does. He comes like a couple days later, checks the car. And he's like, okay, well, we got to drive it. I'm like, all right, well, if I guess we just go a little bit around, we'll see what happens. And so we drive a little bit around, and he can't figure out what it is. He's never heard vibrating like that. It sounds weird. Yeah. It only happens in certain areas. It happens at every speed, and it gets louder over time the longer you drive it. And so he's like, man, I don't know what it is. So we do the work of trying to open the hood and see if we can perceive anything wrong with it. And my dad goes, oh, I know exactly what it is. And I'm like, yes, Father, what seems to be the problem? Hopefully something manageable and fixable within a short period of time so that I can continue to maintain my autonomy. Yeah. And he's like, no, your engine mount broke and your engine is literally falling through. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So what you're telling me is, any point during driving back from this festival, my car in that hour on the highway, the engine could have just dropped through and I could have plowed into it with the rest of the car and caused untold amounts of damage to myself and my car. And he's like, yeah, that's exactly what could have happened. And then his suggestion is, well, why don't I drive it back to your house and then I can fix it there. And I was like, that is the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life.
Let me just take it a few miles down the highway.
How much? That's like a 40-minute drive to my house. I was like, how about you just get a trailer here at some point and we'll just do that? And he's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And then like a couple of days later, he's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to get a trailer. I don't think we should risk driving it. I'm like, thank God. Wow. There's some sense. You're so... And it wasn't even like a bad suggestion. It was just like a why risk it suggestion. Like, you probably could handle it, but the problem right now is that the engine mount is broken. Yeah. Okay. There could be so many extra problems that we could add on. We could multiply our problem 1,000-fold by the engine falling through and plowing into it at unknown speeds on shitty roads. Like, what if? And we already know the roads suck. Right? Yeah, there's potholes.
One pothole away.
And all the engine needs is enough force at the apex of its like elastic sling to just fucking fly through. And I was like, then you break pipes. You break, and not on top of smashing into the engine with the rest of the chassis of the car, which you're there. You're right in front of. The engine's in front of you. You're behind it. So, and you're always going forward. The odds of it, like, breaking,
Christ.
Like, you gotta think about this, right? That thing could just, like, through all of it. It's so anyways. Yeah, I was like, yeah, the trailer sounds like a better idea. So yeah, I've just, so now I don't have a car. It'll be a while before it's fixed. I don't even have the money to fix it at this current point in time. Mm-hmm. I think I have like $120 in my bank account to my name.
That's a hot damn moment.
Then
wow.
Man, so what? I'm poor. I don't have a car. I'm bumming rides. But you know what? In every bit of suffering, there's always a seed of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if I have to be a loser and sleep at the office. This is my second day of sleeping at the office.
Really?
Yeah.
Where have you been sleeping?
Yeah, so what I do is in my room, my tiny room, I lay out 4 pillows in a row. And then I just lay on them.
I thought you'd sleep on the couch, but that...
No.
No?
Yeah, no, because the couch has a spring broken, so your back is like...
Oh.
It's completely hanging. It's like a U,
Yeah,
basically.
you don't want that.
So it's not comfortable. I would rather sleep on the cement itself. So
Yeah.
I add just the bolster of those cushions. I only do it on some days. I don't do it every day. It just so happens that it was more convenient so that Jade could go through her morning ritual, and she wants to do some errands and stuff, that I just stay here so she doesn't have to drop me here. But you know what, man? It's going pretty good, all things considering. I honestly,
you don't seem that beat up about it.
No, I don't feel depressed about it at all. I mean, you could look at the situation like, all right, I'm like, and this is like, we can view it through the boomer lens. Let's do it, or the Generation X lens. At least I think I can step into those shoes for a moment.
Yeah.
It's like these millennials, granted I'm the oldest Zoomer and the youngest millennial, because I'm just on the cusp of that.
We're in the same boat.
We're in the same boat. So it's like, these millennials are extremely entitled and don't understand suffering at all. They don't have houses, even though inflation and the economy is horrible.
And if you were to ask me if I wanted to buy a house right now, I'd say no way. Those rates are terrible and the prices are too much.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But even outside of that mentality, I think I guess this is where I'm starting to value and reap the fruits of my labor of reading, because I'm sure years ago, if I'd been in this situation, I'd be like incredibly stressed, incredibly depressed. I'd feel that this is an insurmountable obstacle in front of me. It would feel but I'm looking at this perspective and adapting to it, and recognizing that it is just perception. And I think that's one of the interesting things about in consciousness, one of the books I had read, that's not the name of the book, but they were talking about this concept of consciousness. And it was that you overcome darkness and you gain courage, not through facing it, not through subjecting yourself to it, but expanding your understanding of it. In the same way that it would be stupid to just go in front of a lion and try to overtake it. By understanding the lion and learning more about the lion, you dispel aspects of the darkness. You dispel aspects of the unknown, proverbially in this sense. And by dispelling aspects of the unknown, you increase willpower, courage, your ability to face any adversity, essentially.
Yeah.
And so I maybe that's just the way I view it. I feel you would think that every event recently would be disempowering, but it's had the reverse effect. It becomes empowering, because in limiting my autonomy, it makes my choices easier.
Yeah.
And limiting my my funds and my ability to make decisions about like what I eat and stuff, it's made it simpler. I know I have to buy the cheapest things and maximize the most nutrition.
Yeah.
And all of this knowledge converges because I've been studying nutrition and spirituality and religion, and I understand when I'm reading like the New Testament, Proverbs, I understand what Solomon's saying when wisdom is worth its weight in gold, as well as like wisdom holds in its hands the length of days as well as honor and riches. And this idea of like your length of days really is the extent of your knowledge. And if you are conscious and you choose to be conscious, that is the length of your days, and not even just longevity of your life, because obviously if you make smarter decisions, you're going to live longer. That's just natural. But if you can find a way to adapt your wisdom to actually reap the fruits of your labor, then it becomes multiplicitous in all varieties of your life. And I'm sort of viewing it interconnectively too now. It's not just I'm not just a disparate person amongst other people. Like, you either choose to be active in life or you choose for life to be active against you. Those are your choices. So consciousness or unconsciousness. You can be a sleepwalker and not choose to do anything and just let life come at you, or you can choose to make decisions and change the course of your life.
Yeah.
And I suppose in these ways, I'm empowered more and more by choosing to be conscious in moments where previously I would choose to be unconscious. And I'm beginning to overcome aspects of myself, not through sheer willpower, like I have before, the brute force of trying to like force myself to do things, but by understanding the nature of it. It's not like a lot of the reason I have trouble in my life is because I'm reactionary to things.
Yeah.
I react to emotions I feel rather than choosing how I react to those things. And it's so dumb because I've read so many quotes about it, but they're all now becoming understandable. They weren't perceivable before. And like this idea of life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
Yeah.
Like there is that aspect of that's becoming more and more true by the day. And this really is a situation of being poor, my car being broken, having to rely on other people, making decisions about my diet in order to make sure that I can maintain, because you are what you eat, at least I believe. So there's an aspect of your happiness and your contentment and things that come from your diet, and all aspects of like what you perceive make up you. So if you're constantly viewing like ugly stuff and terrible whatever, there's a whole bunch of ideology and philosophy that I'm forming around those concepts. But I think I'm finally able to perceive an aspect of, I'm content in these moments, I think is the best way to describe it. And I'm not the sort of content where I'm not doing anything and I'm just playing video games 24/7.
Yeah.
I'm the sort of content where I understand where I am in this life and I understand what I need to do to change my situation. It's a matter of deciding whether or not I want to do that, and I have to choose to be conscious in order to do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Damn. You're on your way.
I'm well on my way. I'm on a way.
Yeah. You're doing something, dude.
Yeah, it's honestly been fun.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've had so much fun, and I think the suffering makes it so much more fun.
I think I understand where you're. Okay, so whenever you say like, because to most people, right, I would say that what you're going through, people would be like, "Oh my god, dude, I would die," like, or they would be having a bad time. I feel like I've been in that same exact space where like everything's like really stressful, but for whatever reason, like it's like a challenge where you're like I like to pretend that I'm competitive and I go like, yeah, I'm gonna win or whatever.
And it's funny because I really think that the brain wants to solve your problems.
Yes.
And
that's what it's there for.
Yeah, and we spend so much time not listening to it, or spending so much time, or there's two aspects, right? There's the ego, and then there's like the other aspect of yourself. We'll call it the father, since we predominantly deal with Christian themes here. But the aspect of yourself that wants better for you. And you're constantly warring between those two sides, like gratifying the ego, something that is steeped in a life of fear, or there's a life of faith, and relying on yourself and that voice in your head that wants you to become better than yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I've been accruing, which is. There's something ironic about using words that relate to money when it comes to like debt and like spirituality. For some reason, I find that really funny. But I don't have another word for it, so I'm gonna use it. I've been accruing the debt and the tension of not being the person I want to be, because you do accrue so much lethargy and laziness and procrastinate, like all negative emotions and everything from just continually avoiding being the person that you can be, essentially. And I think I've paid a huge toll in that debt of I constantly avoid doing the things I know I should be doing because it's easier to just gratify myself in sensory pleasure. It's easier to be selfish than it is to be selfless. And so now I recognize that aspect, the aspect that I need to be, that the nature of my work isn't that it's busy work or I'm not doing game design or something. It's like spiritual.
Yeah.
And I think that has reinvigorated an aspect of my ability to survive and do stuff. Like, I'm at the point in my life where, although there is a sentiment of do or die, that really is just this perspective. And if you let fear overtake you, you're never going to get anything done.
Yeah. So, damn. But yeah.
Yeah, why don't you talk about your car story? I've been talking for a
Yeah,
while.
so penis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
penis? Here, let's just get naked.
Yeah. Here, feel my gonadal energy.
It's so much easier just to talk about groping another man's testicles than it is
to talk about anything.
To deal with the real difficult things in life.
But you that's cool, dude.
Yeah, it is cool. Honestly, it is.
How do you feel?
I feel great. I think there's I don't know, man. It's like liberating in its own way.
You seem liberated.
Yeah, I think I feel like aware. And it's true. I still make mistakes every day, and I'm still constantly fighting myself to do things. I don't think I expect an end, but I just gotta work towards it. It's steps.
Yeah. The thing is, so like right now, I'm at a point where we're post wedding.
Yeah.
We are post trips. We're post like pretty much everything that my life has been going up to into a point. And I think I talked about this last time. We're even for me right now, I'm post like work every day right now because just my work has slowed down. And so I've been like staying at home, and I kind of just wake up, I make coffee, I make breakfast, I go to my computer, I turn on League of Legends, and then it's 6:00, and then I make dinner, and then I and then I go back and I watch Breaking Bad with my wife, and I go to bed. And like that's been like every day. I've been trying to fill it with things like go see you. I went and saw my cousin yesterday and went and had lunch with him and stuff. And I'm trying to like fill my time with like meaningful activities so that way I don't get like depressed, essentially. And like fighting that is becoming harder and harder. And so my mind wants to go more and more towards the unconscious, just zombie play video games, and then every once in a while wake up, make food to live, and then like hang out with your wife because that gives meaning to your life. But I don't know where to go. And hearing you go through all this, I'm like, I could probably figure something out, if that makes any sense. It's just such a, I don't know.
It is. It's. I suppose it is empowering to recognize this dichotomy between consciousness and unconsciousness. Because I constantly have battled the voice in my head of, and I still do all the time, of like, this is what you need to do. And the less I listen to it, the like more depressed and like angry and upset I feel.
Yes.
But it's difficult to find the discipline in yourself to be able to overcome it. Like,
yeah. Everything around us makes it so easy to not listen to that too, right? I play video games. My mind is completely focused on, like, for instance, I've been playing RimWorld. Really fun game. The guy who created that probably had like, he spent years on it, like, and it's a beautiful, well put together, super functional, super replayable game that just drains hours out of your life. And I look at that and I'm like, that's beautiful that guy made that, but also I need to not click on the start button.
This is, this sentiment you're imparting on me is the same thing I deal with all the time. It's this. And I think it's something we both suffer from because we've opened the door and it can't be closed.
Yeah.
This idea of we are aware, acutely aware, that there is like some sort of purpose for us in some way.
Yeah.
And that we have to continually strive for this purpose. Like, what is the best way to describe it? Like when you sit down to play a video game, it is a form of choosing unconsciousness, and it's not horrible. Like there has to be moments where there's moderation, but there's also an understanding of there's something we know that we'd rather be doing, and the only reason we're doing this is because like we think that we need to not listen to this voice in our head or something.
I mean, like whenever I sit down and play a video game, I look at it and I go like, I right now I don't have a definitive purpose. I don't have a big goal in mind, right? Right now I'm just trying to find work and at some point in my life have children, but like not really ready for that right now, you know? And so I kind of have like a while to just, I don't know, reflect on myself and do some stuff around the house, if that makes any sense. But like, I feel as though I don't have a goal is where I think I play video games the most. Because if I have something in mind that I really want to do, it makes it a lot easier for me to step away and go like, I'm going to go do that. Or at least I'm going to chip off a piece of that to get down to the goal that I need to get to. I think maybe that's where I differ from you a little bit in that sense. I do feel like there is a grand purpose for me, but I know that there is one, don't know what it is. You know, so I don't know.
I think I can understand that. I'd say that even in many ways, I don't truly understand what like my grand purpose is. There are things that I'm magnetized towards, but I know that by continuing to read other people's stuff that I'm at least searching for some sort of answer.
Yeah.
It's like I find, and the problem is that has to be done in moderation too, because if I just spend all my time reading, then I'm not getting anything done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think life is balance. But there's also difficulty in determining whether you're doing something that's just distracting you from your purpose or whether or not you're actively pursuing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Anybody who's like an ancient Greek philosopher listening to this, you can email us at rovingslant@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you think you have the answers and you feel some sort of intimate spiritual connection with us over the cross of time that transcends the bounds of time.
If you can feel our gonadal energy right now.
Yeah, here, I'm just going to put my balls to the mic. Let me know if you feel that. Do you feel a humming vibration in your ears?
Do you hear the semen being made?
Yeah, you know what tinnitus is, right? It's the gonadic energy I'm sending to you over the ultraviolet radiation waves.
Through these ones and zeros we're sending over the internet. Anyways.
Yeah, my dick speaks in binary.
Oh, really quick, I just wanted to go back. Sends like SOS over and over again. Yeah. I just wanted to go back really quick. Did you ever see Neurons Connect? Did I talk about this last week?
I don't know.
I found this really like connected stupid dumb things for me where like this is what kind of started the process. This was just before the cabin. I started thinking about if you ever watch a video of a neuron connecting, right? They just send out, I think I had to have talked about this in the podcast.
But you can talk about it again.
It's fine. I know. But so like neurons in your brain, right? Whenever they want to connect and form a new connection, which forms a new memory, they like launch out little feelers and they kind of like feel around. Then eventually like, oh, there you are. And then they'll like connect. And then electricity flows to it. And that's how all of our memories are being made. This is how I'm perceiving you. This is how I'm talking about my neurons that are in my head. I made some neurons connect to talk about my neurons in my head. It's like the weirdest, dumbest thing in the world to think about how you're thinking and how your brain works, because it's like, yeah, but I'm doing it. So why do I need to think about it? But then your brain's like, yeah, but what about? and you sit there and you think about all these like weird connections. And I go like, every single person has all these like little electricities flowing through, making little connections and junk like that. And that makes us all unique people. But at the same time, there's also this overarching thing that like maybe connects to our soul or something, where everybody just wants to achieve happiness. But is that just like a chemical fascination? Is your brain going like, we like the happiness dopamine, so we chase after that? Or is it like literally there is some kind of purpose that we need to fulfill in our life? Or does our brain know to create some kind of empty purpose that goes like, hey, you have a purpose, you got to find it. And you go like, whoa, where? And it gives your brain a mystery. So is your brain smart enough to trick itself
this goes
into
back
thinking?
This goes back to the deceptive nature thing. Like, is nature deceiving us that we have some grander purpose, or in order to keep people from being too stagnant or something? I don't know.
I mean, like, if you look at it, right, if we keep driving to look for something, it has made us better people. Mm-hmm. So obviously we've created something in our mind to make ourselves better, so that way we can survive better and procreate and create more humans. So like, is our DNA smarter than we are? You know what I mean? Like, you always think about it like our genetic makeup is almost the smartest thing about us. Mm-hmm. Because without that, we wouldn't have any drive to do anything. We'd just be like, sitting here doing nothing.
You know, a concept you might find very interesting. If I'm not a scientist, so I can't directly describe it. I can describe the sentiment to you,
okay,
which
work.
You'll probably get. Okay, yeah. So like DNA, right? It's this coil of letters that they've ascribed to doing different things. Yeah. They believe 2% of it is related to like genetics, and the 98% of the other stuff is referred to as junk. That's what the rest of the
I thought
DNA
that was passed on intelligence, but yeah.
They refer to it as junk, but it's probably more likely that they just don't know what all that stuff does. So when I was reading the Deep Nutrition book, something really interesting, and what they found through doing studies with like twins and other things like that over the course of long periods of time, is that, okay, your parents combine their DNA together to give you your own unique form of DNA, right?
Yeah. I get my own serial number.
The best part of that, it's like your software program, basically, how you're going to act.
But here's your license number.
Yeah, the DMV, they hand out the babies. Yeah. But the most interesting part about that is that based on how your parents, so they have like a base DNA, but based on how your parents live their lives, depending on what nutrition that they had in their lives and what food that they were eating, as well as like how they live their lives, that affects and modifies your DNA by adding tags to it. Okay. Yeah. And the interesting thing is
diabetic.
And the funny thing is, like, asthma is a reaction to like an environment with air pollution, what they believe. So like, if you're a smoker, your children are more likely to develop asthma because the DNA is smarter than us. What the DNA is doing is it's accounting for the fact that they need people with like more shallow breath because there's a lot of air pollution. Yeah. So like DNA is trying to like evolve in a, like, it may not just be random mutations. It might be mutating the children in the DNA by adding tags to it based on the environment and the information that's been given because of whatever the person's lived their life. Mm-hmm. And the most interesting aspect about this tag system, is that we can remove and add tags depending on how we live our lives, and that teaches the DNA to like react. Essentially we're modifying our program by how we live, essentially. So like, whatever you get from your parents, if you maximize your nutrition, maximize your life, maximize maximize as in like make better. Yeah. Like I'm using the RPG term of min-max. But like, if you make your air better and you cleaner and whatever, I'm probably cleaner is worse since we're moving back to whatever, but whatever it is, whatever the answer is, depending on how you live your life, that does affect how your DNA reacts. Your DNA is responsible for like how the cells work in your whole body, and how you feel and everything, what chemicals you produce in your brain to get these electromagnetic impulses that make you feel the things that you do. So it's wild to me. We actually have a lot more power than we probably ever imagined.
Well, it's unconscious power as well, right? I mean, like, you look at that and you go like our DNA is like smartly tracking what we're doing, even though we're pretty much unconscious of it, right? And then it goes like, time to make a child. Hey, make sure you throw the asthma in there. There's a lot of pollution, and the DNA was like, yeah, of course, of course, brother.
It's like, it honestly, it really is like that. Oh my
Hey,
god.
hey, this you know the guy that the DNA is coming from. That guy ate a ton of sugar,
And yeah,
diabetes.
yeah, literally, yeah, because they're like insulin. It needs to be able, and as well like something a lot of people don't know, which I didn't know until recently, is that Down syndrome. The reason that like the advantage to having Down syndrome is that you're incredibly resilient to like all infections and viruses and
Really?
everything. Yeah, like your body, even though what you lose in that chromosomal
Yeah.
difference and stuff, you gain in immunity to like everything,
Jesus.
basically. So
The DNA goes like, yeah, what would happen if we just made him immune?
yeah,
Like,
well,
just everything. And they're like, well, it costs 57 points.
yeah,
They're like, well, we could just get rid of...
it literally is like RPG.
Jesus Christ.
Like, I'm going to take negatives because the DNA doesn't know. It just knows how you lived your life, and
Yeah.
that's what it reacts to. So, like, if you're constantly sick all the time, maybe you're just not getting enough vitamin C to fight it off or something, and the body's like, we're just going to make somebody that can survive in this environment.
Yeah.
They're going to be as adaptable as possible. Like, we're going to subtract all these points.
Yeah.
Like, fuck them. Just make them immune to everything. Like, it really is like your DNA is building an RPG character.
Is
Yeah.
it?
It's like, well, based on our best guesses, it seems like the air pollution is really high. So let's give him asthma. How many times did she get sick over the course of her life? Okay, what about the dad? That's looking like a big number. Let's just dump that chromosome.
Dump these like 8
Yeah.
chromosomes. Get rid of those.
It gives us negatives, but it also gives us this.
Yeah, but wait a second. We can't get sick anymore.
Yeah. Hold on, we got to make sure that this person, it seems like their father had a penis length of this big, and just subtract a couple of digits off of that.
Yeah. Wait a second. We don't need that big.
As well as like nearsightedness, like if you don't have enough vitamins to produce like the full like eye of the child, it develops as like an oval. So it is really just DNA maximizing whatever it has in those like it's like, okay, we only have enough vitamin A. Like, for example, they did a test with pigs, and what they did was they deprived pigs of vitamin A completely. They
Yeah.
found a way to deprive them in their diet, and they gave birth to offspring that was blind and couldn't see because no vitamin A basically communicates to DNA that they're in like a low light environment, and darkness does not matter.
Yeah.
So, and then the most interesting thing though is once they added vitamin A back into the mother's diet, then the pigs that she offspring are all, it was multiple mothers, it wasn't just one.
Yeah.
They became vision, they had vision again, they could
Jesus,
see. So
yeah.
it is really like you, depending on like the mother and the father's bodies and what they have in their nutrition and like how they live their life essentially determines like what the offspring deals with when they come into their life.
Yeah.
And then depending on how they live their life, that affects their offspring. Like it really is, there's so much more in this hereditary line of understanding beyond what we could even know. And
Yeah.
science has only like scraped the surface. It's like the lightest shallow touch.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Whenever you said it earlier, right? They only know what 2% of DNA.
yeah,
does.
they only know 2% is for genetics.
All these things,
and that could be fucking wrong.
Yeah.
So who knows? And we're constantly I think that's the funniest thing. I hate this proselytizing of science being set in stone, and I'm somebody that does it too. I constantly look at empirical science and I think that that's truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the more that I read of all of these books, I'm recognizing that you have to use an amount of your sensory perceptions and logic and rationale to confirm what your objective worldview is and how you feel about the world and what the reality of the situation is to you. Because constraining everything to just math and numbers doesn't really give you a complete perspective of what the world is.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a healthy balance of skepticism as well as like a pursuit of truth using a wide variety. And one of the things I think is difficult about modern life and the way that we train people to go into these fields is that they're all specialized, and that specialization in that primary field limits the ability of their scope of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because doctors only focus on, and obviously I'm speaking from
You
only
don't-
the
you're not a
extent of what I
doctor,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I haven't gone through school. But I feel, and this is confirmed with my sensory experience, that it's constantly focused on the cause, and that it's not focused on the cause, it's focused on the thing in the moment.
Yeah.
And they don't focus on the cause because they give medicine that has the opposite reaction of, so like, and there are words for this, like medicine is typically prophylactic, which means they focus on the thing rather than the cause of the thing. It's the symptom instead of the cause.
Yeah.
And medicine prescribes allopathic medicine which is, allopathic is just a fancy word for medicine that has the opposite effect of what the person's feeling in that moment. So they cure in a way that's backwards. It's not, the way is...
You work backwards because, well...
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is because you're working off of the knowns rather than trying to guess at some unknowns, right?
Yeah.
If you can immediately cure something because you know something,
Yeah.
like, I have a headache, take aspirin.
Yeah.
Right? That's an easy thing, but like, why did you get the headache? Why would we sit here and think about that whenever I know that I can cure your headache now?
Yeah, they're specialized in that specific thing. And this reminds me of that story you told me about your, like, mom's hands.
Yeah.
Like, they gave her a medication that had the opposite effect in a trial period, but they didn't really explain or seek the cause to understand, like, why she was having that problem with her hands.
Yeah.
And then that's where she went to, like, the other holistic medicine, and
she's deficient in something.
And that was just a different perspective. That's all it was. And I think that there is value to all these perspectives, but we're so narrow about every single thing that we do that, like, people sort of view the body in these disparate ways. They're like, okay, the doctor views the body in this way. And it is really just your perception, right? It's the same way in a book I just read. This concept works perfectly. It's this idea of, like, everyone perceives things based on their consciousness. And so, like, okay, the salesman's going to perceive a street corner in a different way than a doctor is going to perceive a street corner, in a different way than the construction worker is going to perceive it, in a different way than the architect is going to perceive. And each of those perceptions of life aren't wrong or incorrect. It's just that they have a specific, narrow version of it. Whereas, like, doctors, when they go to cure specific things, it is a very, whatever they learned. It's not, they don't, and obviously I'm speaking based on not just generally, but like, a doctor probably isn't going to be understanding of the endocrine system unless his profession relates to the endocrine system.
Yeah.
So how hormones relate to the greater scheme, and it's true that doctors do learn a lot of stuff, but it is only one perspective. Mm-hmm. It is one very specific perspective. Yeah, I mean, you get my point.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do find DNA wacky.
DNA wacky. Yeah. Wacky, dude.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
Wacky.
Hey, let me know when they find the penis size one. I could use a couple inches.
It's so funny. You must have been vibrating that to me because I thought the same thing. I was like, how do I make a joke about convincing my DNA to increase my penis size? That was literally the thing that came into my head. And you across from me felt this. Maybe me or we both vibrated
we're
at the same frequency.
Yeah.
We're like, dude, we need to fucking sit down and meditate to grow our penis, dude. That's what honestly, that's what I love about this podcast. I think slant is the worst way to describe it now that I'm thinking about it, because we really go in all directions. Maybe I'm just describing too much, but I do really feel like there's moments where we are honest about how we feel, and we're like struggling and we're really truthful, and then there's the comedy of just the absurd things that are so shallow that we focus on to just break up having to deal with the weight and responsibility of those topics. Yeah,
we're talking about, like, how, like, we think that, like, the world is like we're trying to figure out what the human condition is, and then we're like, so cock-sized, though.
And I don't say any of this to, like, stroke our ego or beat us off. Yeah. I love that there is that play in there. I feel like there has to, because there are people that are serious in the world, and there are people that are funny in the world. But I think, if anything, what we're trying to do is find balance in our lives.
Yeah.
So to have balance in both of those extreme ends of this podcast feels like it's fitting of our purpose in its own weird way.
Exactly.
Like we're achieving homeostasis by get prescribing both ends of the spectrum of absurdity and like serious discussion. I can't think of a better word
I
for
think
the opposite of absurdity, but
I don't know. But I think
why am I asking you for words?
Yeah, no, I'm dumb. No.
Ooga booga, no.
Yeah. Grunga bunga.
Yeah. Let me just speak your language for a moment.
I feel like we have episodes like this where like we talk about something like philosophical and deep for so long, and then we'll like I feel like this has happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think if we go back to episode like 21 or not 20, if we go back to episode 21, the episode we're doing right now.
Is this 22 or 21? I don't know, because I'm 4 podcasts behind now, baby. I'll have to actually listen to them, and you got to do the thumbnails.
Oh, I can't wait. But no, I feel like if we go back in time, like maybe episode 11.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 episodes ago, I feel like we probably had like a similar philosophical, deep conversation about something with the same breakups of like, penis.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we have been consistent.
Yeah.
We've been consistent in length.
Yep.
We've been consistent in girth. We've been consistent in some ways, and we've changed in others. Yeah.
Minute 30.
Yeah.
You just moved the decimal place down.
It's true.
Yeah. Anyway.
Minute 30 is too long.
Yeah.
I'm for the 130 milliseconds. I'm in and I'm out. I'm a man of action. I'm not gonna revel in the pleasure of the world. I'm gonna get in. I'm gonna get out. And I'm gonna go back to working.
Yeah,
I'm a working man.
Yeah,
give me the 9 to 5. Put my life on a treadmill, baby, because I'm not making any decisions for myself.
I want to be on the wage mill, baby.
Yeah. Garnish my wages, take my money. I want to pay for things I can't afford because that's who I am.
You just reminded me of the song called Combine Harvester. Have you ever heard it?
No, I have not.
It's not really a country song, but it's not Combine Harvester by whatever. It's a different one. It's by the Wurzels. Okay, it's kind of a goofy song. It's old. But like, there's a line in there where like he's basically the plot of the song is the guy owns a combine harvester. Right, he's fancy, right? And there's a lady with a lot of acres of land. He's only got like a few, and so he wants to marry this girl so he can take her acres of land, right? And he's like, "I'm a man built for speed. We'll have twins and triplets." And I'm like, "That's where you're at."
We're there, buddy. Man built for speed.
Yeah. Dude. So, but anyway. It's just a clever line in a thing.
No, it is good. I'll have to listen to it, honestly.
It's way too catchy to not be a popular song, and I don't know how people have avoided it for so long, because I don't think it was ever popular. The only album I can find it on is on an album that's a collection of, like, garbage music.
Wow.
Like, literally, the album...
It's, like, buried.
Yes. It is so far hidden. The person who found it... which is a friend of ours. He wears glasses and has a blonde afro.
Okay.
He found it. I don't know where he found it, how he found it, but I'm like,
this is it.
You found it. You found the music.
That's honestly amazing.
But yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me.
We'll put it just right here.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're just gonna... Nobody knows this song anyways. It doesn't matter. Dude, we're gonna give him at least one more viewer.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts in regards to anything we've talked about? I feel like we didn't really talk enough about the things you learned, the insights from your cabin trip. But
we went through them.
All of it? Okay.
Oh yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. But do you want to? I'm going to do a speed round really quick with the original topic thing that we were. So I got a Bronco. Bronco's okay. I got to sell it so that way I can get something else. Whenever I went to go get the Bronco, I found out that someone credit frauded me. So whenever they ran my credit, they found out that I have a really low credit score. I look it up and I'm like, oh my God, someone in Detroit opened up an AT&T account in my name. Okay, and used my social security number. So what happened is I didn't know about the account, didn't know anything about it. They didn't pay it, so went to collections. Collections pinged my credit. 89 points, so like down a lot. And so when they ran my credit to get the Bronco, it was like pretty bad. I think my credit was like a 640 something rather than a 720, something like that. But anyway, so like the financing that I got on it was terrible. It's like at an 8.9% APR. The whenever the collections pinged my credit, it was a day after I checked my credit score, which was 2 days before I went and got the Bronco. So that was stupid. The Bronco drives great. It's cool. It's a great car. I need to sell it just because I can make a lot of money off of selling it. I was looking at getting a Toyota. I told my parents this, and because they're true-blooded Americans, I could feel, even though this was over the phone, I could feel my mom and dad's face sink into the ground, and they were like, Sam, that's a foreign car. And so I had to like kind of just like work up to like, look, I would like to get another American car, but there's nothing that I really like that's out. I really like Ford vehicles, but the issue with Ford vehicles, they only make big vehicles. I like the Bronco because it's kind of short. It's like a stocky vehicle. And I like Ford's cars, but they don't make cars anymore. So I can't really get one unless I get a used one, which would be fine. But the price for the used one is bad. And I already still have my old used Taurus, which is a Ford car that I love driving. So I could move over to another Taurus, but what's the point? I looked at getting like, the Toyota I was looking at getting was a hybrid. It's a RAV4 hybrid. I was looking at getting the Prime model, but apparently the Prime model is impossible to get because it's a plug-in hybrid that you can go about 70 miles per charge with, which was pretty cool, and I was really interested in that feature. Also, by selling the Bronco, I would have enough money to pay for, I would still have to take out a loan, but I would be able to pay a lot of the Prime off, and it was cheaper than the Bronco that I have. So I was like, oh, that'll be cool. Like, I could still get a new car, and it would be a hybrid, which is something that I think that the future cars will be electric. We can talk about that some other time. But the issue is you can't get one anywhere. Can't find them anywhere. So then I was like, okay, maybe there's like a non-plug-in hybrid that's less rare. Gonna look at getting that. Went to get one of those, but once again, still can't find them. Can't put them on order. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of stuck. So right now, I'm holding on to the Bronco. I almost put 1,000 miles on it. It's only been 2 weeks. And so I got to sell it, got to make money off it. I got to sell my old car. But now I'm thinking if I sell the Bronco, keep the money and just kind of put in an order or something for the Toyota RAV4 that I want to get, that I could possibly just, wait to sell my old car and whatever. But anyway, if anybody wants to buy a new Bronco, I got one up for sale.
Email us at Roving Slant. It's green.
Yeah, it's a green 2-door, Big Bend.
There you go.
That's
all you were, yeah.
That was what we were holding on to.
If there's anything I've learned, it's that you need to follow your intuition on this one.
Yeah.
What you intuitively need.
Yeah.
So if you intuitively feel that you need to buy his brand new green Bronco 2-door.
You're like a salesman.
Yeah.
You like
it can be yours.
This is your salesman pitch. You bring them into the office. You talk nothing about cars, but you tell them all about how however you feel, you got to make sure.
Honestly, dude, if we're gonna be rational about this, if you're somebody that wants to buy a Bronco and you find our random podcast that
lines up
that no one listens to, and you listen all the way to the end. Even though we have literally no listeners but ourselves,
yes.
Okay, and his wife,
yeah.
Okay. If for some reason that line, it's a message from God. It is destiny for you to buy this Bronco, because the things that have to come together for you to be in this moment at this particular point in time are so coincidental. You have to pay double the price you would pay just because it's destiny for you to acquire this Bronco.
I hope that was fast enough. Goodbye.